Thank you for all those who organized this unbelievable Maimed. I'm very emotional. It's unbelievable. Over 500 tzaddikim coming out on a random night to hear a random daf in the middle of Yevamos. Daf Num Gimel in the middle of Yevamos. Rabbi Eli, we're holding in the middle of Sfiras Omer. In just a few days, the very, very famous story about Rebbe Akiva and his 24,000 Talmidim we're going to learn it right here in Yevamos. A little over a week. We repeat the story over and over, but do we really take it to heart? 24,000 Talmidim died. Say it over and over. We're here in a Sephardi shul, and I figured it would be appropriate to say, from one of my favorites, I know Tomer Levy, our new executive director, he learns Ben Yoyada before he learns Gemara almost. I mean, it's exaggeration, but he learns every single Ben Yoyada. So I want to quote a Ben Yoyada. He asked the question, he says, why is it that the Gemara counts as Talmidim? It doesn't say 24,000. The Gemara says 12,000 peers. Say 24,000. What's 12,000 peers? Says the Ben Yoyada that Rebbe Akiva knew what was going on, and he tried to prevent the tragedy. So he said, I'm going to pair up the 24,000, the older with the younger, and let the younger respect the older. Let the Sephardi respect the Ashkenazi, and the Litvak respect the Chassid. He paired them up. And unfortunately, it didn't work. Rabbi Eli, if you look around, look at the person sitting next to you. We have in this room, we have Zionists and anti-Zionists. We have Hasidim and anti-Hasidim. We have a Litvak sitting and giving a shiur in a Sephardi shul. We have Lubavitchers, Yekis, and look how many Hasidim. So many Haimisha people. I truly believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking down at us and smiling. We're not here kumzitzing. We're not here to eat cholent, although I heard there's a good cholent afterwards. We're here, we're gathered to connect to the Rebbeinu Shalom in the best way we know how to connect. We're here not judging each other, not looking at this guy, he's like that, and looking down at the other guy. We're not judging. We're here, and that's one of the most beautiful things about MDY. And I think people feel it. Why are there so many people here tonight? Because so many people came to meet their mishpacha. This is a place that we get together once in a while and we meet family. We recognize so many different faces. The Mark Ashkenazis, Murad Nakash. Where are you, Murad? Murad, right over here. Shkoyach Murad for sponsoring. And if we're talking about Rebbe Akiva, we're going to mention him today on the daf. Another lesson that we hear, but we have to internalize. Think about it. Rebbe Akiva is what we call an Amaritz. Until he's 40 years old, nothing, zero, an Amaretz. What happened to this Amaretz when he decided to take things in his own hands? He didn't just become a great person. He might have become the greatest person that ever lived, the greatest Yid that ever lived. There's a Gemara that says that Moshe Rabbeinu saw Rebbe Akiva in the future and he told Rebbeinu Shalom, why are you giving the Torah through me? Give it through him, he's more worthy. So second place, third place, right up there with the greatest of the great. When did he start? When he's 40 years old. 40 years old. So that's a lesson for every one of us. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how many daf gemara you did. You're still not as big of an amaris as Rabbi Kiva was when he was 40. And look at what he reached. There's no stopping anybody. You're 40, you're 50. People wrote in, a guy wrote in, I'm 80 years old, I just opened up a Gemara for the first time in my life. So you're still young, you're only 40, you're only 37 in Hatzlacha, you're still young. So I think, instead of emails tonight, I propose that we sing two songs. But when I mean sing, I mean sing. Not look around and watch everybody. Like sing with your heart. Acheinu kol beis Yisrael. Acheinu kol beis Yisrael. Hanasunim batzovoro batzoro uvashivya oinim bein bayom ubein bayavosho Acheinu kol beis Yisrael Kol beis Yisrael, Hanisunim batzoro, batzoro uvashivya, hoinim bein bayom ubein bayavosho, mokoy yirachei aleihem yoytziei mitzvoro levacha umeafela leyavoiro legiola hashto mokoy Achem aleihem yoytziei mitzvoro levacha umeafela leyavoiro shimimu legiola hashto v'agolo ubizman korim. The next one, we're approaching Lag Boimer. And we remember what happened in Miron. And when we had the Siyum in Ramat Bet Shemesh, which I'm flying high. You know, everybody that was there is still on a high. One of the reasons is because of all the camaraderie and the singing that we had over there. It was just out of this world. Ani mamin, ani mamin, ani mamin. Be'emunah sheveleima, be'vias HaMoshiach, be'vias HaMoshiach, ani mamin. Rabbanim, ani mamin, ani mamin. Be'emunah sheleima, Bevias HaMoshiach, Bevias HaMoshiach Ani Mamin, V'af al pi she'yismameya im kol zeh ani mamin, v'af kol zeh yismameya im kol zeh ani mamin, ani mamin, mamin. Hoy be'emunah shebeleimo, hoy be'viyas, hoy HaMoshiach, be'viyas HaMoshiach ani mamin, ve'af al pi she'yismameya im kol zeh ani mamin, ve'af al pi she'yismameya im kol zeh ani mamin. Shkoyach. Beautiful, beautiful. Again, take it in. It's very emotional. You should know. It doesn't happen every day. 500 people not coming for a siyum, not coming for a shever brachas, coming to learn Torah. It's unreal, unreal. We have to do sponsors. That, yeah. The koilel is sponsored. Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Wow. You know what? We got to do it again. We got to do it again. Shvach. Good morning, Rabbi Sai. That was better. Wow. I didn't think it could get better, but I tried. Hey, never know. The koil is sponsored by anonymous from Lakewood. What? Anything else I forget? I'm wearing my clothes, I hope. Okay, gewaldig. Wow. It's been a long day. The koil is sponsored by Lzchus shiduchim for this individual. Sponsored by the Lock and Lebovic families, Lakewood, New Jersey, because Torah is the best segulah. They went on for another month. Parnasah Chodesh Nisim is sponsored by Eli Pנחס ben Moshe Shalom, and Rochama Promã Pנחs Yehiyel Sרגא ben Avraham. If anybody can read it like me, let me know. It's not so posh. Parnasah Chodesh Ahron Fraiman Lzchus parnasah and siyata dishmaya and kedina Hatzlacha to Rav Eli shkoyach. Parnasah Chodesh as a Zechus to Ahron Hatzlacha, and to you the magid shiur and the video editor at Hatzlacha and continuation non-missing shiur. L'zechus nishmas Rav Avraham Yitzchok ben Binyamin. Parnasah Chodesh anonymously nishmas Chayo bas Yosef. Parnasah Chodesh anonymously as HaKaras HaTov to Hashem and as a Zechus for continued health and bracha by Nisim Akilov. Akilov something. How do you say your name? I don't know. He's not. Akilov, but it says, I guess it's the next word, no space. In honor of all my friends and family who came out to meet Rav Eli. Wish to be there. Yitzchok Hershkowitz. Leila Nishmasim Mirosis Gittel Tova Bas Rib Levi Yitzchok by his pancake mix. The yard says Chav Ches Nisan. Sonny Alwani. In memory of my grandmother Freda Bat Chana Aleh Shalom. And honestly, this is Zechus. For Shlema, for Yosef, Rafal, Ben Rachel, a member of the MDY family, and one of the original members, Rav Eli's shiur. How many people here are with the shiur from beginning of brachas? 5.5 people. Unbelievable. Yisrael, you came at Daf Yud. Don't make up stories. You weren't in Daf Beis. You came actually in Shabbos. Shabbos Yitchas, yeah. I know, you're not going to pull a fast one on me. Tonight's your event here in Brooklyn is the Zechus for Yehuda ben Rachel. We're making brachas on the refreshments. Please have Yehuda ben Rachel in mind for Refuah Shleima. Tonight, this is written by Murad Nakash. Tonight we remember the 6 million Kedoshim, this beautiful Kiddush Hashem, all the Yidden coming together in Achdut to learn Torah, to learn the Daf brings aliyahs to the Neshamas. The Neshamas should have an aliyah. Boys, here we go. It's not just all fun and games. It's even more fun. We're learning the Daf. By the time this is over, the rabbi of the shul is going to be converted. He's going to be part of the Daf as well. Okay. We are holding 3 lines down from the top. Now, we're in the middle of a sugya, smack in the middle of a sugya, so everything Daf related, you just need to know that in 5 minutes we're going to be in a new sugya. So if you're new to this is the first time in Yevamos, we're going to start something fresh. But let me give you a little breakdown of Yevamos in 30 seconds, the best I can, in case this is your very, very first time doing Yevamos. You're not allowed to marry your sister-in-law, your brother's wife. However, if the brother dies without children, then it's a mitzvah to marry his wife. She's a Yevama, and by marrying her, you're performing Yibum. There's a way out of it. If you don't want to marry her, or she really thinks that you have a shchin or something, then there's a couple of eterim for her. Then you perform what's called chalitza. I have here, for the very first time, a real shoe. I know you have to give him a tremendous ishkoyach, and I left it in Israel, unfortunately. This is real. Actually, Yaakov Ayal's is nicer, but it's very, very similar. The thing is that Yaakov's actually fits my foot. Okay, I don't know, it's like literally perfect, but I think his is even better than this. Must be better. This is a chalitza shoe. The Yavam wears one of these, and the Yavama gets down, removes the shoe, spits, goes through a whole process, says a few psukim, and she can marry whoever she wants. Those are the first 2 things. Now, if you look at this chart right over here, we just discussed the blue and the green, chalitza and yibum, those are both in the Torah, Doraisa. Now, Rabbanan added 2 very, very familiar things to the yibum, and that is a maimer and get. Maimer is what we know today as kiddushin. Somebody gives the kala a ring or money, that's kiddushin. When you do so to Yevama, it's called the maimer. It's the same exact thing as kiddushin. Just to a regular woman, it works midaraisa. Over here, it only works midrabanan. That we had a whole discussion. Why does it work and how does it work, etc. The other thing you could do, unfortunately, we know what this is. It's called a get. Instead of giving a chalitza, you give a get. Now, it doesn't really work. Works somewhat, and you still have to do a get. What we were learning and discussing from Daf Nun is the combination of all these things. You take all the 4 things and mix them all up, and many different combinations. The person first gives maimer, and then he gives a get, gives a chalitza. The bottom line is that if a person gives chalitza, or he performs yibum, there's nothing else after that. You can't do anything, you're not really doing much. But if a person goes ahead and does maimer first, and then does chalitza, what's the halacha? If a person does get first, and then does chalitza, what happens? And the combination of all those things. So if you just want to take it back a few lines, and not to confuse all the new guys, so it's like 24 lines from the bottom of Nun Beis and Beis. We're not going to go there, don't worry. We're starting from Nun Gimel. But just so you understand what's going on here, Rebbe says, Rebbe, the one who wrote the Mishnah, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rebbe Yehuda Anasi, he says, Vani Oimer, and I argue, and I say, Ei Masai, when is it that if a person performs chalitza, he lets the Yevama remove his shoe, the chalitza, you could do something after that, you could do a maimer, you could give kiddushin, isn't chalitza, the end of the story. And for these words, we have 6 pshatim. What does he mean? What does Rebbe mean? And yesterday we learned 3. He differentiates between a person who gives chalitza and then he's mekadesh the woman and he has in mind for ishos, for kiddushin. Yevamos, if he has intent to be miyabim her, einacha chalitza klum. Once you do chalitza, it's the end of the story. And if you try to give her kiddushin and give her a ring, nothing happened because you had the wrong intent. You had intent for yibum, and yibum is over with chalitza. But if you try to marry her, even though you're not allowed to marry her, because the Torah says, once you give chalitza, shuv, kivin shalei bana shuv lo yivna, you can't try to marry the yevama after you do chalitza. So, what is Rebbe saying exactly? We had great pshatim yesterday. Lamdish stuff. He was trying to, great story. Guy found out after he plowed his front yard, he was mowing his lawn, he found out that he mowed his neighbor's mansion's lawn. The mansion is worth $10 million. And I'm just throwing it in because it was a great story. He mowed the guy's lawn by mistake, like 1 foot of his lawn, and he finds out later that when he mowed his lawn, the guy already died, and the guy happened to be a ger, and you're allowed to be kind of the ger's mansion just by mowing his lawn. But he had no intent. He thought he's mowing his own lawn. He missed out on the opportunity because he didn't have the right intent. And that's what Rebbe meant. If you have the right intent, you think to yourself, I'm being mekadesh her because I want her to be my wife. Yes, it's usher, but you had the right intent. So something happened. But if you had the wrong intent, you're like a guy mowing the lawn, just moving around, mowing the lawn, thinking that's your own lawn. That was one of the pshatim. Then you did 0. Okay. Now let's jump forward. Another few pshatim here. 3 pshatim. 3 lines down. Rav Shravi Omar b'chalitza ksheira. He's just going back on Rav's pshat that we said yesterday. And that's basically every pshat is going to work on the pshat before it. What they said, and they said that there's a difference between this and this. No, there's no difference. I say a new pshat. Okay. What Rav said yesterday, if you use such a language, you should become mikudeshesli. Typically you say, I read mikudeshesli, but the bazu. This guy throws in Zika of a Yavam. Now, if you're new to Yevamos, let me just tell you the word Zika means a bond. So, when the brother dies and he leaves a sister-in-law, a widow, so there's a Zika, there's a bond between that widow and the brother-in-law. So he could either marry her or do chalitza, but even before he does any of that, there's a bond between them. How strong is the bond? What does it do? That we learned a lot of stuff about it. But if he uses a lashon, he's done with the sivama completely. There was chalitza, they went to the bezdin, they performed chalitza, and the story. By the way, this thing right over here, a couple $1,000, just so you should know. We tried to get in Eretz Yisrael, I said, no way. He said, I'll give you $3,000 deposit. No, a guy took one and ran away with it, we don't have it. They use this in Eretz Yisrael, unfortunately, in the bezdin Bnei Brak, once a month. Because think about it, our elderly people get married, zivuk sheni, let's say, and they pass away, so you have an 80-year-old woman who has to do chalitza. Okay. If he uses a funny lashon, he says, you should become mikudeshes to me with the bond of a yavam, that's 0. He used the wrong lashon, forget about it. Now we're talking about a chalitza that's no good. What's the chalitza that's no good? So you look at the chart over here. Yeah, you guys could see because I'm just pushing buttons here. Okay. What happened was the guy on the top, where is he? Here he is, right over there. We don't need him. Reuven goes bye-bye. This is our artist, Yoshi, calls me up. I don't know what time it was. Like just right before the shiur. He goes, I have a new idea. Some people don't like that Reuven, who happens to be a prominent guy in our community, goes bye-bye, he's laying down. He says, I think that we should put him in a picture frame. He's thinking about this at 1 o'clock in the morning. What if we put him in a picture frame next to it? I think that's a better, okay, fine. Anyway, so if you see him in a picture frame, you know what it is. Reuven, and next to himself is a picture of him. But anyways, Reuven goes bye-bye. He was married to the 5-towner. We have it right over here. Is this the first time a woman stood on the Zohar Kodesh thing? Unfortunately not. Okay. So the Yavam, Mr. Shimon, because their brothers, Reuben and Shimon, are Baldwin brothers, they're both bald, and they're brothers. Shimon has to do something with this 5-towner. Either he gives her chalitza or he does yibam. What does he do? This klutz, he gives her get. It's not one of the things he's supposed to do. Well, it does take effect. To the point that, he's supposed to do chalitza, they tell him. Okay, so he does chalitza. That's called chalitza psula. Because now he ruined it. By him giving a get, it's not a pure, good chalitza like the Torah tells us to do. So, Rebbe says, no, if you perform a chalitza, that's no good. That's a shvacha chalitza because it came step 2 after the get. Poiteres. There's nothing that happens afterwards. Once you perform this chalitza, so what if you did a little bit of a get beforehand? But now I took care of business, I gave her a chalitza, end the story. Mar sovar chalitza psula ener peteres. There's still a little bit of a bond going on, and therefore the chalitza doesn't work 100%. Rav Ashi amar dukulam chalitza psula ener peteres. So you see, Rav Ashi takes this pshat of the Gemara, Rav Shravi's pshat, and says, no, not true. Everything you just said, I don't agree with. If it's a chalitza psula, if the chalitza came after she received the get, no good. Any peteres. Vacha, what's the question over here? What's the machloikas? B'yesh t'nai b'chalitza kamifligi. If there is a good kosher chalitza, could I give a woman a chalitza and I make some sort of condition? I make a condition, I say, here's your chalitza on condition that you give me $200. 200 zuz, says Rashi. Could you do that? That's the shayla. So, Mar Sova Yeshnai b'chalitza, it works. So, in our case, she didn't fulfill the condition. She was supposed to give the guy, by the way, you guys are learning, great. Is the Mevo recording or is the other one recording? Which one is it? Because the Mevo's in the way. Okay, great. No, I'm just into this stuff. Later on, there's some people that watch it once in a while. Okay. So, since she didn't fulfill the t'nai, she didn't give him the $200 like she promised, then it's not a chalitza, and therefore it's not good. I'm sorry. You could make a t'nai, and therefore, yes, that's what I said. And therefore, she didn't fulfill the t'nai, and the t'nai is a good t'nai, so it's not a good chalitza because she didn't fulfill the t'nai. You can't make a condition. You did chalitza, and the story. And even though she didn't give the 200, it doesn't matter. The kiddushin. So, let's think about it for a second. He made a condition with her. You have to pay me $200 for this chalitza to work. She didn't give $200, so therefore there's still a zika, and therefore if you went ahead and you gave kiddushin, there's something to grab onto because the chalitza wasn't good. So we're not even talking about a funny chalitza. We're talking about a real kosher chalitza that never took place because there was a condition. And now for the final pshat, Ravina Amar, the Kulam yesh t'nai b'chalitza, right? We have Ravina and Rav Ashi. They're the two that wrote Shas. So they're last over here in the list. Ravina Amar, the Kulam yesh t'nai b'chalitza. He tells his contemporary Rav Ashi, no, you don't know what you're talking about. There is a t'nai in chalitza. Everybody agrees they can make a condition. I don't know that he's saying you don't know what you're talking about. It could be I'm just thinking this out loud. Maybe they're just saying, maybe this is the Pshat of Rebbe. You're not forced to say it like you. Maybe you could say it like me. Then what? There is a t'nai. You could make a condition. So, the famous idea in Shas, t'nai kafel. And if you look at this pasuk, there's 2 parts actually to the parasha, but it says in the pasuk, "Vayomer Moshe Aleim." We're talking about t'nai b'nei Gad u'bnei Ruven. B'nei Gad and b'nei Ruven didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael. They wanted the better pasture on the other side of the border. So Moshe Rabbeinu made a deal with them. If you come and fight the war with everybody else, great. And then he tells them that should be the end of it. But then he says, V'im lo yavru. First he says, im yavru in red. B'nei gadol, if you do that, great. V'im lo yavru, and if you don't keep your condition, then it's not good. So you see from this part, from the psukim, they have to double up your condition. For instance, this sukkos, by the Prushim, there's a shul right next to MDY, and these are like real grunics. They look like Yerushalmis, but they're grunics. And the guy brings to shul 40 esrogim, every shape and every color and everything, and everybody goes like this. They pick up all 40. So I'm about to do it. He says, oh. He tells me in Hebrew, I'm giving this to you on condition that you give it back to me. That's what everybody says, right? But then he did it tnai kafel. And if you don't give it back to me, then I never gave it to you. It's like, okay, wow, tnai kafel. So he's makbid, and not only is makbid on 40 Yisraelim, he's makbid on tnai kafels and all sorts of tnaim. Okay. But there's such a thing. I guess it's very important to know what you're saying and what you're doing. Like if you write a will, you have to know how to write it, because if you do the wrong, you think you're writing it the right way, and if it's not halachically correct, halachically you don't have a will. You have to know the halacha. Do you need a tnai kafel? There's different things that we learn from this passage. But anyway, the bottom line is over here, we have a machlokes in tnai kafel. So what's machlokes? Ma'asava tnai kafel. Ma'asava be'inot tnai kafel. Do you need a tnai kafel? And he didn't double it up. Ma'asava le'vin tnai kafel. Okay, so that's all machlokes here. Great. And so that explains Rebbe, his lashon, and those are the 6 pshatim in Rebbe. He just took us through a little bit of a trip through Shas, different sugyas, and it was beautiful. And now, on to the rest of the Mishnah, until the end of the parak. Chaz v'asa maimer v'nosan get ubal. So, this is chart 4. Person did chalitza, and then, or yibum. Okay, so did chalitza or yibum, because both of those are the end of the story basically, because those are da'iraisas. So if you do chalitza, end of the story. Yibum, end of the story. But then he goes ahead and does step 2 is either he gave a get or he gave a maimer. So he did chalitza and he gave a get, or chalitza and he gave a maimer, or he did yibum and he gave a get, or yibum and he did a maimer. Okay. But what happens? We mentioned it yesterday when we were learning the Mishnah. What does the Mishnah say? Look at the lashon of the, I guess it's 3 days ago, I don't know when. Daf Nun. It says over there, Ein, the last words in Daf Nun, if you have a Gemara, Ein achar chalitza klum. Might be 2 lines before that also. Okay. The point is that it doesn't mention anything about the guy in green. If a guy performed Yibum, how's everybody doing up there? Hey, Baron. What? The rabbi says they hardly have men up there. Ladies up here, yeah, but men up there, never. They're makbid. Gewaldig. It's geschmack to do the daf. It's geschmack to do the daf. La 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 la. Aha. Ahoy. Ay ay ay. It's geschmack to do the daf. Geschmack. Da 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 da. La 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 mo yo yo yo. La 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 ya ya. La 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 ma yo yo yo. Ay ay da la 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 la. La la la. Yishmak to do the da 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 da. Aha. Oy oy. Ay ay ay. It's yishmak to do the da. La 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 ya ya la 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 mo yo yo. La 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 mo yo yo. Ay 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 ay. Since nobody's listening, I got to tell you, anytime I stop the shiur and I start singing songs, it's because I don't know pshat in the next Gemara. All right. So we have here a situation where a guy does chalitza and then he does maimer, or v'nasan doesn't mean and, it means or, v'nasan get, or ubal, and he did those things. Bila means yibum. Okay. But the Gemara's problem is, why does the Mishnah mention that yibum is the end of the story? Once she's his wife, there's no other mitzvah to be makayim. She's a wife for every halacha. If he divorces her, he could return her like a regular wife. She's a wife. But it doesn't say that in the Mishnah. It just says, after chalitza, it's the end of the story. Why are you ignoring that whole line about yibum? So Abai and Rava both say, and this is the theme of the Gemara, we don't want to use too many words. We're going to say one thing that means everything. And we don't need to say, oh, after Bia, there's nothing else. After Chalitza, pick one or the other. Says Abai and Rava, yeah, that's what it means. It's the same thing. Stick it in, insert it there, but you know what it means. Betana Didan. So, but how come the Tana used? Okay, so if you want to pick one of the two, shouldn't you maybe pick Yibum? Why did the Mishnah use Chalitza? After Chalitza is nothing. Says the Gemara, V'tana Didan, Ataras Yevamos Shuk Adifalei. I want to tell you a chiddush that she's not a Ish anymore. Look, if somebody performs Yibum, okay, performs Yibum, and then what? There's no major chiddush here, so she became his wife. I'm telling you a chiddush, that if you do chalitza, she can get married to anybody without anything else, and she's not a ish. That's a tremendous chiddush. I'd rather that chiddush than tell me that after yibum there's nothing. Next part of the Mishnah, echad yevama achas, echad shtei yevamas. Whether there's one yevama or two yevamas. Masnisin says the Gemara, the like Ben Azay Desanya, Ben Azay Yomer Yesh Mamer Achar Maimer, Bishnei Yevamim, V'Yevama Achas. Ben Azay says that there is Maimer after Maimer. In other words, if one person gives a Maimer, and then the other, let's see if we have a chart here. Yeah. So over here we have two Baldwin brothers, Ruvain on the bottom, goes bye-bye, his wife, the five-towner, falls to two brothers. Now, what should they do? Maybe la halacha today, we say they should do maimer, and then it's more appropriate, it's not such pritzus, fine. That was the other day's Gemara. But minat Torah, perform ibum. Goes Shimon and he does maimer. Goes Levi, the doctor in the white doctor coat, he also does maimer. He says, why should you do maimer? I want to marry her. I do maimer. So Ben Azai says, Yesh maimer acha maimer. It works to a point. B'shnei yevamim, and they both need. Every one of the brothers has to give her a get now. Nobody could be miyavim her. V'yevama achas. B'shnei yevamim. V'yevama achas. Over here it's one yevama. Ve'ein maimer achar maimer b'shtei yevamis v'yavam echad. Sounds very, very similar, the words, but they're very different. We have two men and one woman, or two women and one man. Here's the picture. Here you have one brother who two women, two Yevamas fell to him, and he performed maimer on each one. Why? I don't know. He's only allowed to marry one, and he decided to perform kiddushin on two. So again, look at this picture. It's two men, two brothers, two Ballman guys giving maimer to one woman. One lady received two maimers. And over here you have one man giving two maimers to two separate Yevamas. That case, he says, is different. If it's this case, one Yevama, then the two maimers work. But it doesn't work when it's two Yevamas and one Yavam. He doesn't have the power. We actually learned something similar, that we saw Svara and Chacham, each Yavam has the power to give, but okay, forget what I'm saying now. Ketzad Maimer Lezu. Now, two Yevamas. Right over here. You have two Yevamas, and one received a Maimer, The other one received a chalitza. You see the shoe in the picture is pretty good. You look at it, it has the two things here. We're going to learn about these straps, different way to strap it. It's a whole process. That's why they're very, very long straps. Where's Yaakov Eyal? He's here. Yaakov! Psst. He's all the way by the door, by the center door. Shkoyach, great job. Great job. No, I'm serious. I looked at it. How did you do it? No. Okay. Fine, not him. Somebody else. Lema Misayele Shmuel. Is this a right to Shmuel, the Omer Shmuel, Choletz lebalas maimar, loy nifter atzarasa? So look at this. What happens is like this. You have two Yevamos, two women that were married to Reuven. So when Reuven goes bye-bye, what happens? The two women, Rachel and Five Town, they fall to Shimon. What does Shimon do? He ignores Rachel and he performs a maimer. Step one, he performs a maimer on Five Towner, and then he performs a chalitza. That's completely nuts, because if he was going to do maimer, he's setting himself up for marriage. He should have been miyabim. If he wants to do chalitza, just do chalitza. Fine. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's amaretz. He does maimer and then he does chalitza. What kind of chalitza is this? Chalitza psula. It's bad. It's not a strong chalitza. Why? Because something happened beforehand. He did maimer. So listen to this, Rabbi Yisai. Very interesting. If he was to perform chalitza without anything before, right? Just a regular guy, regular Yom performs chalitza. What happens to Rachel? She's a tzara. She goes free and clear. She can marry whoever she wants. All you have to do is one chalitza to one of the two wives, and you're good. Perform yibum to one of the two wives, and you're good. But this character went ahead and he did a maimer first. So he ruined the chalitza that came afterwards. So what about the co-wife? She cannot go free and clear. Because the chalitza that her co-wife received, Five Towner got a chalitza, is not strong enough to let her go free. Shmuel, Choletz lebalas maimar, lenifter atzarasa. What does it say by us? If you look at chart number 7, it says that if Shimon gave maimer to the Five Towner, and then he gave chalitza to the Berka lady, he has to give the second one. It seems like the second one gets chalitza. That's what the Gemara understood. First, he does maimer to Five Towner. Chalitza wouldn't work on the Five Towner. Give the chalitza to the Berka lady, and that will pater both of them, because the Berka lady is a strong chalitza. She doesn't have a maimer, so the chalitza is perfect. So is that a good raya to Shmuel? Shmuel's of the opinion that when you have a weak chalitza, it doesn't pater the other one. That's why in this case, it seems like the Mishnah is saying, give the chalitza to the Berka lady. The Gemara is going to answer, no, that was the story. It happens to be, he gave maimer to this one and chalitza to the other one. We're not telling him what to do. It just so happens that's what he did. Another thing the Gemara says, this will say just outside real quick, because the Olam remembers, those who were there, that we learned this idea that if you have clean drinking water, don't spill it out if somebody else needs it. Right? What comes to mind? All these Pesach programs. What do they do with all that food? No? It's unbelievable waste. How do you throw out food that other people could use? I don't know what they do exactly. So the same idea, Rav Yosef said that if you could just give this woman a chalitza, and she's no good for a kohen anyway, she's a divorcee, so give it to her. Why ruin another person's life? Why limit her shidduch market? So that's leishbach, says the Gemara of the Rav Yosef. Look over here in this case. Why are we telling him to do chalitza? The Berka lady, she's not also to kohanim. Now she'll be also to kohen. Give the chalitza to Five Towner, already has a maimer. Give it to her. Says the Gemara. Miktani chayletz. Did we tell him what to do? We didn't tell him to do chalitza. Chalatz katani. It says this is a case that a guy did a maimer and then he did chalitza. It's not because he was following instructions. That's what he did on his own. Di'eved. He did it on his own. So it's a di'eved kind of case. Not that we tell him to do it. Okay, next case. Get lezu v'get lezu. Here's a case where Shimon has two Yevamos that felt him. He decides to divorce both of them. It's a real bad thing. Because get, mimer, at least has a place in today's Yibum. I don't know, Rabbi, you know anybody that did the Yibum, real Yibum? Because they said in the Sephardic communities, some Sephardic communities still have Yibum. That's what I was told. I'm still looking for a real, true Yavam and Yevama couple. Not in your community. Okay. So Maimer, at least, the halacha is, give her Kiddushin, then be miyab. But there's no place for a get. So if he gives a get to both of them, so they still need chalitza. Both of them need chalitza. And if you look at the lashon, it says tzri chais. They both of them need chalitza. So what's the Gemara going to say? Is this a right to Rav Huna? Chalitza psula tzricha lechazar kol achim. Remember that halacha? It's an amazing halacha. I'll remind you. If you perform a bad chalitza, in other words, you give a get to a woman by mistake, so then you give her chalitza, that's not good enough. And she has to go to all the brothers. Let's say all the brothers, the guys from Hasidic family, I used that as an example, and one guy is in South Africa, and one guy is in Sahal, and everybody laughed, not today. And one guy is 2 years old, so you have to now wait 11 years until he becomes bar mitzvah. She needs to go to every single brother and get chalitza. That's what it says over here in the Mishnah. Each one has to give chalitza. Says the Gemara, no, my tzricha is da'alma. It doesn't mean that these two women, 5-towner and Berkeley lady, it means that anytime you have a similar case like this case on the screen, all of the cases from beginning of history till today, all of those tzrichais, they need a chalitza. Not that both of them need a chalitza. Only one of them needs a chalitza. Get lezu v'chalatz lezu. We're going to chart number 10. I like to say that, the number 10. This is all on the plane. Chart number 10. I don't know what the person next to me was doing, but staring at my computer. Percolating things. I had a maisa. I was talking to my chavrusa before we took off, and there's not crazy, but it's very, very interesting sugyas. Hopefully, we're not going to learn it tonight. We'll leave it for tomorrow. One of the most famous stories in Shas. It's basically Daf Yomi Amud Aleph, top line. Don't peek there. And I'm talking to him. I decide, okay, we're going to talk to him usually in Hebrew. Nobody's going to understand me. The Yavam fell off a roof, and this lady's giving me these looks. Okay, but it's in Hebrew. But then afterwards, she opened up a book in Hebrew. I'm like, oy vavoy. Okay, next. Zog the Gemara. True story, I'm not making this up. She didn't sit next to me. There's a guy in between us, but the guy was looking at my pictures. He thought they were interesting. He didn't ask me anything, and she gave me this crazy look. Okay. Where are we? Get lezu. Okay. Get lezu. Where are we? 14 lines up. Yeah. 14 lines up. Get lezu v'chalatz lezu. Lema, we have a get and a chalitza here. So Shimon performs, I'm telling you, we're going through all the echetimtzes. So he gave the 5-towner get, he gave the other one a chalitza, let him say the Shmuel. And what's the halacha? It seems like the same. This is a freebie, Rabbi, so we just did the sugya. It seems like the Mishnah is telling us that he should give a chalitza to the second one. So the Gemara let him say Shmuel, v'tevitu to the Rav Yosef. Is that a right to Shmuel, that if it's a bad chalitza, then it doesn't work for the 5-towner. That's why we're encouraging to do the chalitza to the Berkeley lady. And it's also a question of Rav Yosef who says, don't spill out your clean water if somebody else needs to drink from it. And therefore, over here, it says, go do chalitza to the Berkeley lady. Why? You already gave the 5-towner a get. She's already also to kohanim. Give her chalitza. Miktani chaylet. Chalaz ktani. Diavad. Doesn't say in the Mishnah, this is what we're encouraging. This is a guy, a clown that came to us after he did this funny thing by giving again the chalitza, and he comes to us and asks us what to do. Says the Mishnah, cholatz v'cholatz. Oy chalatz. Okay, so here we have chalitza after chalitza. Again, Shimon has 2 Yevamos, he does chalitza to one, chalitza to the other. Now, what's the halacha? Think about it real quickly. If you do chalitza, nothing happens after chalitza. You're done. So the fact that he gave chalitza, you can remove as many shoes as you want. It doesn't do anything, right? But once again, we have the same question we had before, and there's a freebie. Why is the Mishnah focused only on the chalitza? The Mishnah should have also said there's nothing going on after you miyabim. So if a person is miyabim, the 5-towner, and then he decides to do chalitza to the burka lady, or decides to be miyabim to the burka, it doesn't matter. It's over. Says the Gemara, you're right. The Mishnah only wants to say one thing, and fine, you insert it in your mind, but all we need is one, we understand everything. The Tana did done, and why did the Tana say chalitza? Isn't the main mitzvah, here we could add, the main mitzvah is yibum. So why is the Tana talking about chalitza? Oh, because there's a great chiddush, HaKaras HaTov, there's a greater chiddush than yibum, because to tell me that she's mutter and she's not eshes ish is better. Ben yavam echad shtei yevamos. Ben yavam echad shtei yevamos. So here we have chart number 12. Eli, where's that tea? It's gone and drink it. Fine. No. Where did you get it from? No, I don't want you to miss you. Sit back. Come back. No. It's fine. Went away. So here we have, right? If there's a chalitza and then a mimer. And again, we're very familiar with this case. 1 yavam, 2 yevamos. And then we have here, chalitza mimer, 1 yevama, 2 yevamim, 2 men. Says the Gemara. So it goes like this. If you perform chalitza, wow, that was quick. Is it hot? Okay, it's good. Thank you. Just the pasta salad. No, I'm not going to call it anymore. Okay, thank you. If they perform, what's the isser to marry your sister-in-law? Isser karas. Now, what about the other Yevamos? He performs, let's say, chalitza to the 5-towner in this case. What happens to the burka lady? If he didn't do chalitza, if, let's say, Reuven had children, and he goes out and marries burka lady, he's chayiv karas. But because they fell yibum, so the yibum, you're allowed to be miyabim, there's no aveira at all. But he already took care of the yibum situation by giving chalitza. What happens to the burka lady? He didn't do anything with the burka. He just did chalitza with the 5-towner. Does the isser karas remain on the burka lady, or it turns into a lav? Says the Gemara that according to Rabbi Yochanan, it turns into a lav. So what should happen? So if you remember, we had a whole machlokes. If you have somebody that's usher on you belav, usher to you belav, and you try to marry her, children are mamzerim and not mamzerim. Remember that whole machlokes? According to Rabbi Kiva, yes. According to everybody else, no. When we paskin karas, it has to be a karas. Fine. Our mission happens to be going according to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, the one who was 40 years old when he started, and 24,000 Talmidim were nifter. Rabbi Akiva. Everybody turns all the other Yevamos. The burka lady in this case turns into a lav. She goes from a karas. She downgrades to a lav. Why? Because she fell to Yibum and her sister received the chalitza, so she's no longer a karas. It's a chlashmina, so there's a very big chiddush here. The ein kiddushin toivsim b'chayv lavim. You try to perform a maimer on her, but you cannot perform a maimer on her. Why? Because her sister already got to receive the chalitza. But this maimer is only a lav. If you try to marry her, it's only a lav. Nevertheless, we hold like Rebbe Kiva that says that if there's a lav, the children are mamzerim, and if the children are mamzerim, the kiddushin is not typhus. It doesn't grab. Okay. So there's a very big chiddush here. I need to tell you this, that you should know that maimer, step 2, after a chalitza on another woman, doesn't work. Where are we holding time-wise, Rabbi Isai? We're like 2 hours into it.
1 hour.
Wow. How many people are here, do you know? We don't count people, but at least 200, no?
300 pairs.
Wow, I like that. Mr. Exaggerator. I'll tell you this. There's 350 seats on this bottom level. Now, on top, I don't know what's going on. Is it
640 seats in the show.
640 total? But time out. The 4 of us are up here. You didn't count us. There's 2 guys hiding behind the screen. Okay. It's unbelievable. It's mamish. It's very emotional. I'll take it in. It's one of those moments. But according to Rish Lakish, everybody's a karas. You try to marry this Berka lady, you try to give her kiddushin, you're over on karas. Yitzchok Hershkowitz and then kiddushin toivsim b'chayve krisos. I need a chiddush to tell me that it doesn't grab. I think I have this. Yeah. No, maybe not. That's something else. Rish Lakish, that's the next one. Here, this case. In this case, where Ruvain performed the Yibum. So he did the mitzvah. As for Shlakish back. And basically what we're getting at is that the Mishnah has some repetitive things, some things that are not a tremendous chiddush. We're just going and we're filling up the boxes. We're talking about chalitza, Yibum, Maimer get. So some things are going to be a chiddush, some things are not going to be a chiddush, but we want to be consistent and say all the cases possible, even though some of them are not tremendous chiddush. So, look at this. This is a classic case of Eishes. Shimon goes ahead and marries 5 towners. So what is she? 100%, it even says in big letters, married. She's an Eishes. Comes the brother Levi and gives her kiddushin, gives her a ring. She's married. So I need a Mishnah to tell me that ring is nothing. You can't go over to a woman that's already married and give her a ring. I don't need a Mishnah for that. Why is this any different? First, the Mishnah is telling us a big chiddush. That if it's one-on-one, one yavam, one yivama, that when there's an Isser Lav, Kiddushin doesn't grab. So I tell you, why one Yavam, how do you release the Zika? How do you release this ban? And then I go from there and I tell you, so then it also tells you another case, not such a great Chiddush. And since it tells me 2 Yevamas, there's a certain progression, not necessarily tremendous Chidushim. Daf Yomi Amud Beis, sponsored in honor by Moshe Horn, in honor of Jolly Joe Krause and family, and anonymously, Lzchus Moshe Yaakov. You guys are all laughing. That means you never heard the shiur before. Oy vavoy. Lzchus Moshe Yaakov and Shoshana Beruchnis v'Gashmias. Cholatz v'Osam Maimer Raboisai. Literally, I don't know if this is true or not. I thought about this 5 minutes before I got into a car to get here. So it could be completely false, but I'll throw out this thought. What is Yibum? Yibum is a person who unfortunately missed his opportunity. He doesn't have any children. Terrible thing. He left this world without children. So what do? A brother steps in and takes over. I mean, you think about it. He never had a child, but somebody else is going to do the job for him. It's the Torah says this is the way you do it, and it's not the greatest thing in the world, but Belez Breira, it doesn't have a child. You need somebody to lahakam shem lachiv. So, just thinking in terms of us, sometimes we learn li'ilu nishmas here, in Zechus this, Lzchus that. We're learning for other people that maybe didn't have the opportunity or need more opportunities. But what greater opportunity is there than you yourself having a child, you yourself learning Torah? So all of you here, all those guys that laughed at Jolly Joe, what is it? Jolly Joe Krause, and are not doing the daf, take this opportunity and start the daf. I know it's smack in the middle of Masechta, it's in the middle of Yevamos, but who cares? You'll make a Siyum Shas in 7.5 years when you reach Yevamos daf Nun Beis. Today will be your first daf, and go from there. Take that opportunity. Don't miss your opportunity. Don't let somebody do it for you. Yeah? No, it's making more sense to me. Like, I didn't do Shas, but after Me'ev Esrim, they'll give out a bunch of Mishnais in the Shiva house, and other people do Mishnais for me. And most people forget to do it anyway, and then my neshama is up a creek. Do the Mishnais yourself. Do the Shas yourself. Chaz v'asa maimer v'nosan. Okay. So he did Chalitza, and then he did Maimer. We said after Chalitzas, you don't have to do anything. Bishlam echalitz v'asa Maimer itzrich. If he did Chalitza, and then he did Maimer, there's a Chiddush here. So the Chamina, Nigzar Maimer, the Basar Chalitza. There might be some sort of Gzeira here. That what? The guy did Chalitza, and then he did Maimer, but maybe he might get confused, or somebody else get confused between a Maimer first, step one, and then Chalitza. I would think that I would make a Gzeira, a Maimer that comes after Chalitza, which is nothing, because he already did Chalitza. But you might confuse it with a Maimer that happens before a Chalitza. And if it happens before a Chalitza, we said the Chalitza is not good. Kamash Malon, it's not a great Chalitza. Kamash Malon, you don't do a Gzeira. Once you do Chalitza, I don't care what happened before, I don't care what happens after. Ela cholatz v'nasan get lamali. But the guy that did chalitza and then gave a get, what is the chiddush? I did chalitza. We went to Bez and everything was great. Then the guy goes ahead and gives a get. I would have a half minute something happened there, tameich. So now the Gemara uses the same svara that we said before. You're right. Some of the things in the Mishnah are there just agavriata. It's the flow of the language. It fits right in. That what? With tameich, I'll prove it to you. What about you? What does it say in the Seifa? Baal v'asa maimer. The guy did Yibum. Perfect. She's his wife. And then he does maimer to the other one, to the other Yevama. Baal v'nasan get. He did Yibum and then he gave a get to the other one. Baal v'nasan get itzrich. So that I mean a nigzer get the basa be'ila or to get the kamei be'ila. Okay. I would think that she requires a chalitza for this get because perhaps we might get confused. A get that comes after Yibum with a get that comes before Yibum. Okay. Aval Baal v'asa maimer lamali. If a guy did the Yibum and then he did maimer, what's the gzeira? Ela aidi the tana cholatz v'asa maimer. So we have to say, this is all part of the proof and to answer the first question. You see, here's another thing in the Mishnah that wasn't necessary, but we threw it in anyway. First I said the case of Chalitza and then Maimer, and then I talk about Yibum and then Maimer. And because I already mentioned Yibum and then Get, Tananami, Chaz, and Get. Okay. Now we said in the Mishnah that after Yibum, there's nothing. Once you do Yibum, it's all good. She's your wife. So, if you look at this chart real quickly, Midar Raisa, there's Yibum. And Midar Raisa, the one in the blue on the other side, this is Chalitza. So what happens after you do Yibum, green, you could do Maimer, you could do Get, you could do whatever you want. Nothing happens. She's your wife in Shalom Yisrael. Says the Gemara, Masnis and Loikai Tana, our Mishnah argues with this Tana. The Sanya, Abi Yosef ben Yochanan Ishu Yerushalayim Omer Mishum Rebbe Meir. He said in the name of Rebbe, Achas be'ilo v'achas chalitza. Whether you do Yibum or you do Chalitza. Betchila en acharei klum. If it's the first one, like in this chart, the first thing he did was Yibum, then, I don't know if checkmate is the right word, I'm looking for good. It's the end of the story. Finished. Game over. Thank you. Who was that, Uncle Phil? Wow. Recognize that voice. You know, you messed me up, Uncle Phil. The whole Pesach, people asking me, what Uncle Phil's to your shiur? I don't know. There's another Uncle Phil. It's like, there's only one Uncle Phil. I'm Uncle Phil. So my Shver's brother is also Uncle Phil. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara, Shalish Machlokes B'Davar. Like any good machlokes, when you have three, so you have Mekatza L'Katza, you have one that says all the way to this side, one that says all the way to this side, and one smack in the middle. Now what? If you have a Chalitza Grua, then, which is a Chalitza that comes after a get, right? So one man is going to say that doesn't matter. Chalitza and Yibum, nothing happens after it. And the other man is going to say that there is something that happens after it because it was a weaker Yibum, a weaker Chalitza. And then you're going to have one in the middle. It says 1 and 1. So, Tanakam Sovar Biyadikula Migzar Gezrinon. So this has really to do a lot with Daf Yomi Beis, Ayin Sham. But if a person was miyabim after a divorce, so there's nothing afterwards. But people might think that you're allowed to be miyabim after chalitza. Or the Gemara is going to explain in a second. People might think that you could be miyabim after chalitza. And if you miyabim after maimer, people will think they could be miyabim another yevama. Okay. So there's some sort of gzeira. But you don't have any of these gzeiras by chalitza. There's nothing, no gzeira. Why? Or the fact that you said that we should be geyser when he does yibum after a get, because you might come to do yibum after chalitza. And that's a big no-no. Once you do chalitza, you can't do anything. No, there's nothing to be geyser here. Everybody knows chalitza is midor raisa, and they know what happened. They know they went to bezins, the whole thing. No, nobody's going to make a mistake. And if you're worried that it might come to be miyabim the second yavama, given to be a deraisa, everybody knows the whole halacha of yibum. Fine. And Rabbi Yossi says, like Rabbanon, the Gazri Bibiyah. Yeah, we do have to be concerned about Yibum. And therefore, he takes it to another level. Because of Chalitza Mishum Biyah. First, it's like Gzera the Gzera kind of thing. First, we make a Gzera on Yibum. Once we make the Gzera on Yibum, we make a Gzera also on Chalitza. Hadran Allah, Chrim Gamliel, Hadran Allah, Chrim Gamliel, Hadran Allah, Chrim Gamliel. The other wants to sing a song. I simin toiv, mazel toiv, mazel toiv, I simin toiv, yeah, lanu.
One of your crowd shot, we do downstairs, we got the layout room, downstairs.
They're not going to go. We're not finished yet. Okay, good. Yeah, lanu lechol Yisrael away. Mazel tov, mazel tov. All right. Moving right along, we're just going to do a little bit we'll do the Mishnah, we'll do a couple lines here. Now, I noticed something very, very interesting about this Mishnah and the Perek. If you look on the side over here, it just keeps on saying Vayikra Chav, Vayikra Chav. Keep on turning the pages. You'll see all the psukim on the side are from our parasha this week, next week's parasha, Achrim Mois Kedoshim Emor. Vayikra Yates, Vayikra Chav. It keeps on going throughout this Perek pretty much. Just thought it was interesting. So, says the Mishnah, very easy stuff, sponsored by the MDY Tehillim group, where we daven for Rafus Yeshuas and Shidduchim for Klal Yisrael and for our MDY family. I don't know if I said Yishkoyach to Nasanel Gans. Big Yishkoyach. Many of you guys are here because of him, because of his marketing genius and everything that he puts into the daf. Yossi Klein is in the house somewhere. All the way in the back, of course. Sponsored thousands and thousands of Gemaras. I didn't want to say this, but I'll say it. Yossi Klein is looking for a major sponsor for Ksubas. He's thinking about Ksubas. $100,000 at least, Eli. $100,000. Okay. Saul Rosenberg's in the house. Where is he? How you doing? I thought he was going to be here. First he doesn't come to the seminary to Yisrael, then he doesn't come to the thing here. Okay, great. Rabbi Isai, here comes the Mishnah. Habal yivimtoi, bein b'shoigig, bein b'mezid, bein b'oines, bein b'ratzin. If a person didn't have intent when he did yibum, whether he thought it was his wife and he happened to be with his yivama, whether he had intent, bein ba'oines, the Gemara is going to talk about it. He was forced, how he was forced. Bein b'ratzin, of course, willingly. Afilu hu shoigig. Now, afilu, the Gemara is going to talk about this lashon. Afilu, what does afilu mean? We just said, bein ba'oines, bein b'ratzin, bein b'shoigig, bein b'mezid. Afilu, even in a case where he's the shoigig, v'hi mezida. Even if she has intent, and he doesn't have intent, it also works. Of course it works. Why not? We just said he doesn't have to have intent. Who mezid v'shogeges? Now, I just saw a beautiful Turi Evan that says something fascinating. He says, you know when you have to have intent by a mitzvah? When you're holding an object in your hand like a lulav. And this lulav could be a piece of wood or it could be a mitzvah. So you have to turn it into a mitzvah. You have to say, okay, this is going to be my mitzvah. You have hold a shofar in your hand. But when it comes to Yevama, there's no option here. There's no other woman here in the world. She is the widow. She's the only one in the world that you could have the mitzvah with, and you'll be mekayim the mitzvah. Similarly, if you're eating a piece of meat that happens to be a carbon pesach, you don't have to have intent. Because this is the only piece of meat that's a carbon pesach for you, and you're eating it. If you're eating matzah, let's say, I guess you have to have intent for the matzah. It could be this, it could be a piece of bread, it could be a matzah. You have to have intent. But certain things you don't have to have intent, he says, and one of them is a yevama. Okay. Who anus? He was forced, v'ilay anusa. He anusa, v'hu lay anus. There's a story. I like to say a lot of stories, but Yevamos is a little hard to come by stories. But this one I said a while ago, but it's a very, very powerful story. By the Cossacks. There was one of the Cossacks took a psula. He took a woman, a Jewish girl, and she knew what was going on. And she told him, she says, look, I'm Jewish, and I have a tradition that I could say a few words, and I'm going to teach you these words. Say after me. If you say these words, you cannot kill me. I become bulletproof, swordproof, immortal. Panovich, English. Swordproof. So he says, I don't believe it. He says, look, I'll show you. She said, take a sword. I'm going to say these words and stab me. You see, it won't go in. And she said, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. He took the sword and killed her. That's oinus. She didn't want to have this oinus. Hu anus, v'ilay anusa. It's a true story. He anusa v'ilay anus. Echad ha'ma'ara, whether it was the beginning of the act, v'echad ha'goymer, or it's the end of the act, kana. Doesn't have to be a complete. It could be partial. V'lo yichilek bein bia lebia. There's no difference whether it's a natural bia or unnatural. It's all kaina a yevama. V'chein, says the Mishnah, haba alachas mikol ha'arayis v'toira. And the same thing applies if, let's say, somebody chas v'shalom has relation, let's say, with his own sister, just sabesizer. Doesn't matter if it was b'shoigig, it was b'mezid, b'oines, b'ratzon. Doesn't matter if it was the beginning of the act, the end of the act. It's all the same halacha. Oy psulois. Kigoin almana l'kohen gadol. Let's say a kohen gadol had a relationship with a psula, with an almana. He didn't realize, he thought it's his wife. Whatever it was, the same halacha applies. Grusha v'chalutza l'kohen hedyot, or a regular kohen marries a divorcee. So now they can't eat Truma. Mamzeres, also another puzzle person, and Mamzeres. Now, if you remember, this is from a few daf ago, we had the major machlokes. Just to review, I'm not going to go through all of them, but what creates a Mamzeres? We mentioned it today. According to Rebbe Kiva, he has all the three shitas, all greens are in Rebbe Kiva. What did he say? Is it only a lav, or also a nasei, or maybe just a very specific lav of family kurva? That's Rebbe Kiva. We said our Mishnah goes according to Rebbe Kiva that if you marry a woman that's just a little lav, let's say somebody divorces his wife, there's a mitzvah to remarry her, but he doesn't remarry her, somebody else marries her. And then that guy divorces her and he takes back his original wife. It's usur. You're not allowed to take her back. And he did so. The kid is a mamzer. Unbelievable chiddush. We are used to Eishasish. Rebbe Kiva says that's a mamzer. But we paskin even a chiyuv kares. Okay. So if you have a mamzeres and a Nesina Yisrael, or Nesina is from the Gevonim, they fooled Yeshua, they became Gerim, but they weren't supposed to be Gerim. So they're puzzled. We said they can't marry into our nation. Bas Yisrael Mamzer, Lenasin, again, so they explain Mamzeres and Nesina Yisrael. What's the point there? She's already puzzled. She's already Mamzeres. Yeah, but do you get Malchus or not? Bas Yisrael Mamzer, Lenasin, Psala. And there's no difference what kind of act it was. It was natural, unnatural. And now let's just do a few lines here in the Gemara. Maya filo. What does it mean afilu? Even if she has kavana for a mitzvah, it's a big mitzvah in the Torah, and he doesn't have any intent, it's still a good yibum. Or he has intent, and she's mechavel mitzvah. Ela afilu hu shoygiv mezida. Tavai lo mechavel l'shem mitzvah. Listen to this. Even if both of them don't have intent, the mekayim the mitzvah. Afilu hachi kana raboisai. Have a wonderful day. Oh, you know what? We never done this before, but we should do it again. I see the island likes it. Raboisai. Have a wonderful day. Shkoyach. Thank you for coming.